In the heart of Maplewood, where the sun cast warm golden rays through the cozy windows of a little suburban house, lived Mittens and Boots, two of the laziest, most pampered cats you'd ever meet. Mittens was a sleek Siamese with crystal blue eyes and a love for napping in sunbeams. She was graceful, elegant, and had a queen-like attitude that made her feel superior to everyone in the house. Boots, on the other hand, was a fluffy tabby with a love for snacks and an insatiable curiosity. His round belly was proof that he had a soft spot for treats, and his antics often led to chaos around the house. Life was simple for Mittens and Boots: sleep, eat, play, and repeat. But everything was about to change when their owner, Sophie, discovered a new hobby: yoga. Sophie was a kind-hearted woman who adored her cats. She worked from home and spent her free time experimenting with new hobbies. One fateful afternoon, Sophie came home with a brand new yoga mat, a set of colorful yoga blocks, and a shiny new water bottle. "All right, guys," she said cheerfully, unrolling her mat in the living room. "Time to get fit and find my inner peace." Mittens, who had been comfortably napping on the windowsill, lifted one eye lazily and gave Sophie a disinterested glance. Boots, however, was immediately intrigued. "What's that?" Boots meowed. Waddling over to inspect the mysterious new mat, he gave it a sniff, pawed at it curiously, and decided that whatever this thing was, it definitely needed investigating. Sophie pulled out her phone and set up a yoga tutorial. Soft, calming music filled the air, and a serene voice guided her through her breathing exercises. Inhale and exhale. Mittens, unimpressed, stretched her limbs gracefully and settled back into her nap. Boots, however, was mesmerized. "What is she doing?" he wondered, tilting his head. Sophie moved into her first pose, downward-facing dog. As she positioned herself on her hands and feet, her hips lifted high, forming an upside-down V. Boots's eyes widened. "I can do that," he thought. And so, the chaos began. Boots, never one to back down from a challenge, waddled onto the yoga mat and attempted to mimic Sophie's pose. He stretched his front paws out and raised his fluffy backside into the air. "Downward-facing cat," he meowed proudly. But Boots had underestimated the complexity of yoga. His chubby belly threw off his balance, and before he knew it, thump! Boots tumbled over, rolling off the mat and landing in a heap of fluff. Mittens opened her eyes just in time to see Boots sprawled out on the floor, looking dazed. "What on earth are you doing, Boots?" she purred, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Yoga," Boots mumbled, his eyes spinning. "It's harder than it looks." Mittens rolled her eyes. "Of course it is. Yoga requires grace, balance, and discipline, qualities you clearly lack." But Boots wasn't one to give up easily. He shook off the tumble and waddled back to the mat. "I can do this," he muttered, determined. Sophie had now moved on to warrior pose. She stood tall, 1 foot forward, arms stretched high above her head. Boots studied her carefully. "I just need to stand on my paws and stretch. How hard can that be?" he thought. Boots positioned himself, placing one paw forward and trying to lift the other. But there was a problem. Boots' round belly wasn't built for warrior-like movements. As he tried to balance, his paws slipped on the smooth mat. "Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!" Boots yowled as he flailed his legs, wobbling dangerously. Crash! Boots tumbled off the mat and knocked over Sophie's water bottle, sending water spilling across the floor. "Boots!" Sophie gasped, quickly grabbing a towel. Mittens, watching from her perch, smirked. "This is more entertaining than I thought," she purred, her tail flicking with amusement. After watching Boots fail spectacularly, Mittens decided that it was time to show him how it was done. She stretched elegantly, her body flowing with grace as she stepped onto the mat. "Let me show you how a true feline does yoga," she purred confidently. Sophie had now transitioned to cat-cow pose, a series of flowing movements that involved arching and dipping the spine. "Ah, this is my specialty," Mittens thought smugly. Mittens smoothly arched her back into a perfect cat pose, stretching her spine and lifting her tail with finesse. "Look at me, Boots. This is how it's done." Boots, lying on his side, catching his breath, watched in awe. "Wow, she's good," he admitted reluctantly, but Mittens' confidence was her downfall. As she attempted to transition into cow pose, she miscalculated her balance. Her back dipped too low, her paws slipped, slip, and in the blink of an eye, Mittens was sprawled out. Her elegant pose turned into a clumsy flop. "Oof," she grunted, blinking in surprise. Boots burst into laughter. "Grace and balance, huh?" he teased, rolling on his back with glee. Mittens shot him a glare that could melt ice. "That was intentional," she hissed, attempting to regain her composure. Meanwhile, Sophie had moved on to plank pose, a core-strengthening position where she balanced her body on her hands and toes, keeping her body straight like a plank. Boots, feeling a renewed sense of determination, decided to give it one last try. "I've got this. Just stay low. Stay steady." Boots lowered himself into position, stretching his front paws forward and extending his hind legs. For a moment, it looked like Boots had nailed it. "I'm doing it! I'm thud!" Boots' belly gave way, and he flopped onto the mat like a pancake. "Okay, maybe not," he mumbled, his fluffy tail twitching with frustration. Not to be outdone, Mittens decided to give it one more shot. This time, Sophie was attempting tree pose, a balancing pose that required standing on one leg while placing the other foot against the inner thigh and bringing hands together in a prayer position. "Piece of cake," Mittens purred confidently. Mittens gracefully lifted one paw, attempting to balance on her hind legs. She held her pose perfectly for a moment, her whiskers twitching with pride. "Look at me, Boots. Perfect balance." But just as Mittens was about to revel in her victory, bzzz, the sudden buzz of Sophie's phone startled her. "Ah!" Mittens yowled. Her concentration shattered. She wobbled dangerously, and then, crash! Mittens tumbled into a nearby yoga block, sending it flying across the room. Boots was in stitches. "Pfft, you call that balance?" Boots snickered, tears of laughter in his eyes. By this point, Sophie had finished her session and turned around to see the complete and utter chaos her cats had caused. The living room was a mess, water spilled, yoga blocks scattered, and two very tired and embarrassed cats lying on the mat. "What happened?" Sophie asked, her eyes wide. Boots looked up at her with innocent eyes. "We were helping," he meowed softly. Sophie couldn't help but laugh. "Helping, huh? Looks like you two had your own yoga session." She knelt down, giving them both a gentle scratch behind the ears. "Maybe I should start a cat yoga class," she teased. Boots perked up at the idea. "With more snacks, right?" Mittens rolled her eyes. "I'm not participating unless there's a heated mat involved." Sophie laughed, snapping a quick photo of her two yoga enthusiasts sprawled out on the mat. "Well, you may not be yoga masters, but at least you made me laugh." Later that evening, Sophie uploaded the photo to her social media with the caption, "When cats try yoga and fail spectacularly." To her surprise, the post went viral overnight. People couldn't get enough of Mittens and Boots' hilarious attempts at yoga. Soon, the internet was flooded with memes, GIFs, and fan art of yoga cats gone wrong. Mittens, of course, pretended not to care about the fame. "It's just a phase," she purred, pretending to groom herself. But Boots, he was already dreaming of his next big viral moment. "Maybe next time. I'll try Zumba." He meowed excitedly. Mittens groaned. "Oh, please no." If you love heartwarming animal stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more adorable adventures.